Welcome to Meet Me for Coffee. This week's guest is Amelia. Amelia is a healer, intuitive, and she's also a mentor for individuals who want to explore their spiritual and intuitive gifts. She lives in Durham, North Carolina. I met Amelia probably, 8 years ago, I want to say?
Yep. Sounds right.
So she's in her 15th year of having a private practice. She also does intuitive work online. And so with all of that, I want her to share how she does all this. Like, what's her methodology? Is it illness? Is it trauma? So what kind of brought you into this world?
Well, Tanya, thank you first. Thank you for having me. Life meanders, doesn't it? Really takes us from place to place. So I didn't start in this work. I was an engineer for 12 years. And before that, I grew up in a small town called Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And my father is a funeral home director. The funeral home's been in our family for over 250 years. And I think I started in this work when I was born, to be honest. I was born into a family of sensitives. My dad's a sensitive. He's very, very grounded in his energetic nature. I remember watching him as a little girl come up to people who were grieving and kind of, put his hands on their shoulders and say things like, "I'm going to get you through this." And I remember watching what would happen when you meet someone with that kind of compassion and that level of empathy and that level of caring and love. And I think that seeded something in me. I think also going to the funeral home after school and seeing really way too many dead people created in me some inquiry about, well, what does it mean to be alive? What is that spark in us? What is that light in our eye? What is it that makes us, part spirit and part everyday person? And then my mom, she's exceptional. She plays 24 instruments. She sings in 5 languages. And she said that she didn't want to do anything for more than 10 years of her life. And so for every 10 years of my knowing her as my mother, she would change careers, and she was teaching music, and she was translating books from German, and she opened up a hybrid rhododendron nursery, and then she started growing plants. And so the majority of my childhood was somewhere between watching my mother tend to the life and the life cycles of these beautiful plants and watching my dad caretake over the dead and the process of grieving. And so I think I had an education growing up somewhere between these two really interesting parts of life. Now, just because I was sensitive, I was one of those kids, and they always said, my parents, "Hey, you're too sensitive, stop crying, you're too sensitive." I think we probably all heard that if you're a sensitive type person. They didn't know how to raise me. Parents don't get a book about how to raise a kid. They definitely don't get the chapter on how to raise a child who can see things and hear things and feel things that other people can't hear and or see. And I remember this story my mom was telling me. She said, "You've always been a really strange child." I think she used strange. I would prefer to edit this story as special, but strange it is. And she said, there was a time when you would sit at the side of the playground, just up against the building, and when kids would get hurt, they would come sit by you, and apparently you would put your hands on them and they would stop crying. And then the teachers told me not to touch them anymore, and then they would just sit next to me and they would stop crying. So, with my parents not having the manual for how to raise somebody like me, I I just did what we all do. I was just a normal person. I'm still a normal person. I'm still in my sweatshirt, just a normal person here on earth doing the best we can, and went through what I would call normal school, and wanted to be a teacher. Then I started teaching and realized I didn't make a lot of money. So I thought, well, I think I'm going to go to engineering. Why not? It's somewhat of a jump, I guess. And then I worked, in corporate America for 12 years and landed myself back in this work because I got really, really sick with headaches. And I went to see somebody that does healing work like I do, and my headaches started going away, and I haven't had a migraine headache in 15 years. And she said, Amelia, I'm going to stop treating you. And I was like, why? I'm making great money in my engineering. I not getting my headaches. This just doesn't seem fair. And she said, I think that there's something here for you. So I want you to go take the first class of Healing Touch and then come back and I'll treat you. And after that first class of Healing Touch, my life changed. It really did. I came back from that class and I started practicing. I took that first class 6 times because I wanted to know everything. And then I went on, and that was years and years and years and years ago. I mean, a really long time ago. And I think probably 4 years after that, I had a part-time private practice and was working on the nights and in the weekends outside of my engineering job. And that quote, like, you stay close to whatever makes you feel alive. That's what this work was for me. And then at some point I said, I'm just going to have to try it. I can always go back to engineering if I want to. I worked for great companies. I'm just going to quit my job. That was the day my parents thought I lost my mind, but that was the day that I really found, the heart of what I do. And, my practice, you asked me, Tanya, about, what is it that I specialize in? Or, what's my focus? So I tend to work with what I might consider more complex trauma. So this is like soul level trauma. I work with the people who have some type of limiting belief that they have had ever since they came into the world. People who say, well, I've just never felt like I belonged. I just never really understood people. Well, that's coming from something. Or I never felt grounded. I never felt here. I get that one a lot. Or I've lost faith in God, or I never had a faith in God. I don't know what that is. Or I have no idea what my spiritual purpose is. I've lost my heart's desires. I've lost my spark. So those are the clients that I typically spend time with in my clinic, and I also work in surgery. So those are a couple different areas that you can find me in my practice.
So if you had to say, what would you like? What is the most important skill that somebody or that you deliver to people as far as their energetic field? Like, you would say that, like, what's the most important thing?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think you're asking me about, like, if somebody came in and they asked me, what is the most important thing that I need to do for my energy system to take care of me? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, Tanya, that the topic of grounding comes up for me. Grounding is so misunderstood. It's so commercially, like, we see it thrown around in what I call the spiritual marketplace, where, like, all the wackadoodles are out there giving us a really bad name. I'm a little jaded. I have a few opinions about that, I guess you can tell. But grounding is just, it's thrown around so much. But it's never defined. I always said, like, I'm going to write the book on grounding because everybody talks about it, but nobody tells you what it is or how to do it or what the definition is. So you see, like, for example, you hear about grounded people, like a grounded person. somebody that's really calm, somebody that's very calculated, somebody who is not reactive, just really even. You hear about a grounded perspective, a perspective that is wide-reaching, but also very practical. So then you're starting to get this idea that grounded is more than just being anchored in one place or very, very even. It's also very, very big and expanded. And, those two things, like a grounded person or a grounded perspective, speak to something called, like inherent characteristics. These are characteristics of a person. But then you've got the topic of grounding in counseling, grounded emotions or the ability to regulate yourself, which is something that's learned or cultivated. It's not necessarily inherent in us. You know what I mean? And then in energy medicine, I think that I first was introduced to a more energetic definition of grounding in yoga. They have tree pose and they say, do some grounding and centering before your practice, but they don't ever tell you what the hell it is. So, that I think bridges us back into more of the energy medicine place. So, when we talk about being grounded from an energetic perspective, it's the ability to tap into the earth's energy, which is, that idea of being in tree pose and really planted in the lower body and really connecting to the types of energies that come from the earth that can nurture and support us. Some people, like myself, work with the elemental realm, so the fire, earth, water, stone, metal, these types of energies that really come from the authentic connection to Mother Earth. And then we've got grounding in our spiritual self, so we've also got this ability to connect with the celestial energies that are above us, and that deals less about like operational energies, which is like, how the immune system is going to be empowered or how to regulate your sense of safety and stability. That's more earth-based. But being grounded in the divine part or the spiritual energies of you help you tap into inspiration, help you connect with the divine perspective. So you start seeing that grounding is not just about connecting down, it's also about connecting up. And then it's not only about connecting to, but being able to work with the energies in a really natural and bi-directional way. I know it gets a little geeky, but I mean, that's the engineer in me. I think there's a reason why I went through that experience, to be able to take this really complicated world of energy and kind of break it down into these little parts. But, we can bring in and then we can also release too, which is that letting go of what's not serving us. I mean, how many times have you heard that in this work? Oh, well, let me release that which is no longer serving me. How? Grounding. That's how. It's just bringing a new awareness to a process that we can step into and practice. It's a practice, just like working with our breath is a practice. But it's a really natural alignment for us, so it's really easy. So, that's one part of grounding. That's kind of like the overview. But we can go a little deeper even and think about the chakra system. So, a lot of people work in the chakra system. The idea of grounding the chakra system is really more about empowerment, empowering that system. So when we get connected to either spiritual energies or the earth energies, we're really talking about empowering that system to help us clear our ancestral issues or enhance our safety and security, or empowering our body functioning, or giving us emotional support, supporting the emotional body, which helps us with our relationships, or, literally empowering our personal power, or in the heart, our relational being, or how to speak our truth, or channel messages, or how we dream through the brow, or connect with spirit through the crown. And then, we can go on to the other chakras, but that's just an idea of what grounding can do in the chakra system. What I love to work in, though, is the Hara system, which is a system that feeds our chakra system. It really channels our soul level contracts, our karma, the lessons from old incarnations, other incarnations, and how also those affect this life. So when we ground the Hara, it brings you back in alignment with who you are, your essence. And that means helping life-limiting physical illnesses not have a reference to that illness in the template. We're working at the template level, or working with our heart's greatest desires and setting those free, or working with our spiritual purpose. So, grounding in that Hara system is really about reuniting someone with their essence and their home. So, I could probably talk about that for like 10 days, but, that's what I think.
The ground, I totally agree with the grounding. Like, that so resonates with me, because I don't, like you said, you don't just ground into the earth plane. You can ground into the galaxy, the divine, great spirit, whatever resonates with you. And it's a matter of channeling the energy from above to below, from below to above. And then you actually become like your own energetic conduit within each of these vortexes within our bodies. And just like you said, you grounding each of the energetic centers based on, your needs or desires and what your heart. So that really makes, like, I resonate a lot, and totally that is my world as well. So I hear that you can see in the body.
Yeah. So that was one of those funny little gifts that I didn't know I had until my practitioner kind of kicked me out of her clinic and said, go take this class. And when I came back, what I realized when I was practicing with my hands on people is that it first started because I'm very physically empathic. So it's like I see through my own body and I feel through my own body, but I could put my hand on somebody's knee that was bothering them, and I could suddenly see inside my hands, the space between that, oh, well, there's a tendon there and it's gotten stretched a little bit. So what if I just ask spirit to support the sweet, soothing of that. And so I would start with muscles and little tissues, and then I found out that with practice, I could see not just when somebody was with me in the office, but I could see when I was working with people in Australia, that if I just focused deeply, my inner vision would show me what I needed to see. And that's how I got interested in doing energy medicine and surgery, because I took some really specialized training, and I'm actually trained to go into surgery with the client, scrub up, and go in. Of course, you have to have a lot of permission to do that. And I'm a little blood squeamish, and so I don't actually do that. I work from the waiting room. But I remember this one surgery that it was, this is just an interesting story about being able to see in the body. But I was working with a woman's husband who was having prostate surgery. And when you're sitting in the waiting room with somebody's loved ones, it's really important that you manage your facial expressions. It's very important that you manage what you're saying to them, because God forbid if something was to go off in the surgery, you don't want to react to that. That's not in my scope of practice to give that sort of information. So you have to really self-monitor. But I remember feeling a robot come in to the surgery. I could feel the little arms of the robot, this metal thing. And I mean, at some point I just had to say something because I knew that there was no longer a physical hand in this person's body, because I can feel the incisions, I can feel them opening, I can feel the movement of the tissues, I can, see. I was doing a back surgery once and just helping to move all the spinal nerves out of the way while the surgeon was in there cutting. It's just phenomenal. But this particular surgery, I said to this gentleman's wife, I said, I know that this is going to sound like an unusual question, but is there by chance some type of robotic tool that they're using? And she said, no, absolutely. They're doing this surgery with the Da Vinci surgical robot. The whole surgery was with the robot. And I went, oh, that's what I thought. I just needed to know how to partner with it, and I didn't want to freak you out. And then I could go in and really work around this metal, being in there. And it was just such a cool experience. But, when you work with anybody that's had physical trauma to them or just ill, I guess you could call me something like a medical intuitive, but I don't know. I wouldn't know how to call what I do. You know what I mean? It's just there's too many words that really don't fit. So I just say I do energy medicine, and that's broad enough. But yeah, that's just one of sort of my hidden skills.
Yeah. No, I totally so. Because even Malidoma and because I work with Malidoma a lot, and I also work with Cindy Dell a lot. Because I like to surround myself with like-minded tribe people. But psychic surgery, but I don't like the word psychic surgery. And then I didn't like quantum surgery because that was the same thing, kind of jaded, tacky. So I came up with subtle energy surgeon. So I've kind of, and you're doing similar that I do, but we both do it, but I don't want to say manipulate, but our avenues are similar and yet different, because I see it visually. I'll see the organs and but I love the AI and merging with the little being there, right?
I know, it was wild. And the part of the surgical process that I think is so interesting, Tanya, is that when you're working with somebody who is intubated and on a full anesthetic, they are in the middle of their vision quest. They don't know how this is going to end. They don't have a sense of their body. They are in that dark place of their unconscious, and you get to hold that for them. I'm holding their spirit. And we also have a process where so amazing, because you can hook up with the person who your client, and literally feel when their heart rate starts dropping and say to them, okay, I know that your body remembers how to raise your heartbeat. Right, exactly. Or if it gets too high, you can ask it to come down. And then the anesthesiologists have an easier time managing their, the anesthesia, so that they're not getting too much, and that really affects how well somebody wakes up on the other side of the surgery. And I always meet them in the PACU, so I'm the first person that they see I'm the first person they see as they're closing their eyes, because I stay with them until that moment, and I'm the first person they see when they get up, and I stay with them every step of the way through that surgery procedure until they're in kind of more of the long-term recovery. So it's such a beautiful process to be able to support, for 10 or 12 hours, this really intense but loving moment in somebody's life, and many times life-changing, because people don't choose, unless you're my father, who chooses like elective surgeries so he can continue fishing with his shoulder. But anyway, as long as you're not my dad, most people don't do a lot of elective surgeries, but I help him through those too, so I'm sort of the on-call daughter.
So what would you say is your most favorite part about, like, I mean, because the gambit of energy medicine is large, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's your favorite part in doing all of this?
Well, I think, of course, I get really jazzed up about the surgery because it's just such sacred and beautiful work. But I love to teach. I think that was part of who I was in my normal everyday life. Growing up going, I always want to be a teacher. I always want to be a teacher. So I lead people in these beautiful journeys. Right now, it's a 6-month journey called Journey of the Mystic, and we take a mystical journey for 6 months, and I lead them through mystical concepts, but it's interactive, and there's art, and there's ritual, and there's ceremony, and there are meditations, and it's just this. I am tired of being taught for an hour on Zoom. I want to live, I want to live the teachings, because that is how we learn. And so I've sort of created this way of teaching this work that's very immersive. And I love doing that because it's so creative. And then I host these clinics. Like, for example, I had one this morning. We had 66 people around the country on the call. And it was strictly energy medicine to support the immune system. We did some expansion work. We were working with focus and concentration, because as it seems like people right now with being home and all the stimulus and also external fear and forces of anxiety, people's focuses are kind of, we've become sort of the proverbial hummingbird, going from flower to flower. So I think I love the clinics also, just because you get into this great group energy dynamic, and it's so powerful. And I had people write in like, I was in so much pain, I have no pain, my heart was so sad, and now I feel free. And it's like you hold the right container and people can receive what they need to receive. And that's just that's probably why you do your work too, to see that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so you mentioned just your clinics here, and as people watch this video on my channel,
Mm-hmm.
can we talk about the offer a little bit?
Oh yeah, thank you, Tanya. That was so sweet of you to give me that opportunity. So I'm hosting a clinic right now on Fridays at 11 a.m. It's every other Friday through June 26th. And so I had my technology wizard whip up a code. So I'd love for you to join me in a clinic sometime. So the code will get you a seat for one of those clinics, and you can use it in any of the next 5. And I'd love to have you. And if you want to write to me and tell me that you were one of Tanya's people, like, that would just make me so happy to know, that somebody came from this avenue. I also always ask people before the clinics, what is it that you're needing help with? So while it's a group format, I really look for the themes. And, I had people, can you include this person in my life? I'm also struggling with this, that, and the other. And, we can do it all. We're limitless. The potential's massive. So I try to make even these clinics as interactive as possible. So you're invited into that space too.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, would you want to guide us through one of your grounding meditations?
Yeah, I can do that. Sure. Okay. So I think what I'd like to do now, Tanya, tell me, just so I'm aware and can kind of manage the time a little bit, how long are these typically? Like, how much time do I'm not going to make it an hour. We would all just float away. But I just want to be mindful of your time.
It's however long you want, really.
Oh, okay.
I mean, an
All
hour,
right.
15, 20, I don't know, 15 minutes. 10
Okay.
minutes, whatever?
Yeah, well, we'll go with that. I just didn't know if you had some specific, needs for yourself. So we'll just see where we go. I think giving people a taste of that, the Hara, the grounding in the Hara, because that's going to inform the chakra system, that feels really, really supportive right now, and also gives us just a really wonderful anchor, because it is the system of trauma and there is a lot of external stimulus on us right now. Let's do that. So let's all just take a minute and take a few deep and centering breaths, allowing yourself to follow the wisdom of your breath into this present moment, knowing that that tool is there for you whenever you need to move your attention from without within. And as you come into contact with more of an inner vision, allow yourself to begin to focus on a small ball of light in your lower abdomen, just about 1 or 2 inches below the belly button. Deep within, there's a small ball of light. And as you bring your attention or intention to that small ball of light, allow it to grow just a little bit brighter. Just letting you know that you have a little bit of control over this system. And now, using your imagination, allow that little ball of light to begin to river 2 streams of light, rivering down past the hips, down each thigh, down through the knees and the lower legs, out the bottoms of the feet. Watching those rivers of light go down past the crust of the earth and down past the underground riverways and the bedrock, and down past the underground lava fields and deep, deep down to that beautiful crystal in the center of the earth. And once those lines of light meet that crystal in the center of the earth, allow them to permanently and completely connect to it. You can spear it in, tie it up, super glue it. And once you know that those lines of light are permanently and completely connected to that crystal in the center of the earth, visualize or imagine that crystalline light blending and merging with your own. And then, as if sipping up from a straw, beginning to sip that blended energy back up past the underground lava fields and up past the bedrock and the underground riverways and up past the crust of the earth and in through your floorboards and up into the bottoms of your feet, allowing that beautiful crystalline light to come up in through the lower legs, the thighs, the hips, and branching back and going back to that beautiful ball of light in the lower abdomen. And when it comes home there, I want you to know that just as you are permanently and completely connected to this beautiful planet, so too you are deeply and permanently connected to your physical body and the strength and the wisdom that your body contains. And we're offering healing to that connection. And now I want you to bring your attention to your upper chest, just around the thymus. Visualize a second ball of light there in the upper chest. And using your attention or intention, allow that second ball of light to river a stream of light down the central channel, flowing all the way down past that first ball of light, branching at the hips, flowing down through the thighs, the lower legs, and out the feet. Flowing out through your feet, down through the crust of the earth, down past the riverways and the bedrock and the underground lava fields, and deep, deep down to that beautiful crystal in the center of the earth. And using the power of your intention, allow those lines of light to permanently and completely connect to that crystal in the center of the earth. And then watching that crystalline light blend and merge with your own. And then, as if sipping up from a straw, beginning to sip that blended energy back up past the underground lava fields and the bedrock and the underground riverways, and up through the crust of the earth and into the bottoms of the feet, up in through the lower legs and the thighs, branching back in the hips and flowing midline all the way up, back to that ball of light in the upper chest. And once it arrives back there, I'd like for you to know that just as you are permanently and completely connected to this beautiful planet, to your strong and capable and healed physical body, so too you are deeply and permanently connected to your heart's greatest desires and your spiritual purpose. And let's send healing to that connection. And finally, I would like for you to imagine a third ball of light just above your head, about 18 inches. You might visualize this beautiful ball of light above your head like a diamond. It has all these beautiful colors, shapes, and sounds. And allow that beautiful diamond-like ball of light to begin to stream, a river of diamond-like light down through the crown, down through the head and neck, following the line of the central channel, watching that river of diamond-like light falling down past that first ball of light, and branching and rivering through the thighs, down the legs, the lower legs, and out the bottoms of the feet, watching that diamond-like light fall down past the underground riverways and the bedrock and the underground lava fields. And those beautiful lines of diamond-like light meet that crystal in the center of the earth. And when they meet, use your intention and completely and permanently connect those lines of diamonds-like light to that crystal in the center of the earth. And watching how that diamond-like light and that crystalline light blend and merge, become so bright. And then, as if sipping up from a straw, beginning to sip that beautiful energy back up past the underground lava fields, the bedrock and the underground riverways, and up into the bottoms of the feet, rising up through the lower legs and the hips, branching back and going up midline all the way up the central channel, up through the upper chest and the neck and the head, out the crown, and returning to that beautiful diamond above your head. And just as you are permanently and completely connected to this beautiful planet, to your physical body, to your heart's greatest desires and your spiritual purpose, so too you are deeply and permanently connected to the all that you are, the essence, the code, and that great spirit that will travel many lifetimes. And in this moment, I'm connecting you with a star that has your name on it. And this star holds a tone and a song and a sound, one that is only for you. And in this great connection, a strong column of light casts around you. And in this column of light sings that song, holding you and supporting you. And I invite you to sing that song out into the world wherever you go. Aho.
Oh, that was magical. I love that.
Yeah, I love that. It's a really beautiful. A lot of times people really feel more solidly in their form, a lot more resilient. Some people experience like sitting up straighter, having a lot more energy flow in their chakra system because it's like hooking you back to the big circuitry that feeds you and has always fed you and will always feed you because it is that essence, without all the tarnish that we accumulate through, maybe cultivating bad habits in being, in this crazy, crazy world.
Absolutely. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with my guests? I kind of want to sit in that meditation myself.
No, I think that's the important thing is that, do sit and be refilled and ask for what you need of that space because it's effulgent, it is limitless, and that, to remember that you have the potential to be and become always the best version of yourself. And it might take some choices, but the fuel is there. That you always have the fuel that you need, the support that you need to be who it is you're longing to be.
Ashe, that is beautiful. Well, thanks for joining me for Meet Me for Coffee. Be sure to check out the show notes about Amelia, and I would jump on again and tune into that meditation as often as you feel necessary. So I will see you next week, and Ashe.
Thanks, guys.